Well guys, got a bit of a video going on here today. Well, of course, before us here you see two sirloin tip oven roasts. Now of course, no, we're not going to throw these in the oven and cook them for supper. What we're going to do is actually make beef jerky. And there are several recipes and ways out there to make beef jerky. Some of them use drying racks in several days. Some of them use an oven with heat. Others just use a simple method of a dehydrator and a little bit of a marinade type recipe. And again, with the marinade, there are several ways of marinade recipes and stuff like that out there as well. So of course we have two roasts in front of us, which will yield a fairly good substantial amount of beef jerky. So we'll start by cutting into it, removing all the plastic and all the good stuff. Of course, the roasts are tied in like a bundle each roast, so there is a string that you will have to remove before cutting it up. Now these are semi-frozen, but not completely frozen solid or anything. I find if they're just at that point, they are easier to cut than cutting them when they're completely raw. So we'll start by removing the string off the one. Of course, you can use a knife, you can use scissors, you can use pretty much any method you want by removing the string. After you have the string removed, then we can start on our cutting up of the roast. Now what I like to try to do is cut the roast in half, so you have a nice flat face or surface to work with for your cutting. Now of course, when you're making your cuts or your slices of beef for the jerky, you're going to want to cut them fairly thin. You're not going to want to cut them thick. If you cut them thick, they're going to take longer in the dehydrator or oven or drying racks, whatever you choose. If you cut them too thin, of course they're going to kind of be a little bit harder, a little bit drier, a little bit fast. So we'll start with our cuts. Of course, like always, you want to start with a sharp knife. It makes cutting a little easier. This is where having the roast right at that frozen stage comes in handy. Then that way you can cut it just that much easier without having to fight with raw meat to deal with or anything like that. And of course, as you're cutting, if you find that it's unthawing quicker than what you want it to, just stick her back in the freezer. That's kind of the handy thing is, as long as it's not completely unthawed or nothing, you still can keep it chilled, keep it cool, and which allows you to work, if you will, at your leisure almost. So guys, pretty much like that, we got our first real piece cut. And what I'll do is I'll go through this whole roast, cutting up the strips. And so what I'll do is I'll throw on some Arcane Fire and Ice music while I'm cutting, and pretty much cut up the meat, and then we'll start on the recipe itself. Now I'm sure if you're wanting to make beef jerky but don't want to go through the hassle of spending the time to cut it like I am, I'm sure your local butcher shop will do the cutting for you. Of course, there'll be an additional cutting charge on top of that, but it would save you the time and hassle, if you will, of cutting it. One of the tips I will give you is when you are cutting your meat, if you come across a grain of fat like that, pretty much what you're going to want to do is cut it out. Why do you want to cut it out? Well, of course, if you're making beef jerky to keep for, we'll say, like survival food or anything, the fat will actually over time cause the jerky to go bad prematurely. So it's best to cut it out, and then that way what you'll have is almost 100% meat in your jerky. And of course, when you come across the end of the roast, you kind of get little wedges and weird shaped stuff. You kind of got to work with them. You don't really want to be throwing them away. You can freeze these for a later use in a stew or something like that. Next time you're frying up something, you know, throw them in the pan to fry up. Other than that, you can do what I'm doing very, very carefully. Cut through them, trying to cut them down to the usable size you can use. You know, either that or it's the alternative, right? We can dig out the second half and start with our cutting on it. Now, of course, you see the fat right here. That's going to be through the first few pieces until we've worked through it. So what we'll do is, again, we'll just start with our trimming, cutting her down into whatever, 1/4 inch or so strips. You know, again, the thinner they are within reason, the better. The thicker they are, the longer they will take to dehydrate. So again, guys, you know, kind of enjoy the ride. Listen to the Arcane Fire and Ice music. If you want more Arcane Fire and Ice music, click the link that's down in the description, and that'll take you right to their channel. And that'll take, then that way you can explore around a bit, find some new music, and kind of enjoy. So guys, here we go. So we got the first roast cut up, and that's pretty much what it yielded, with just a little bit of waste product, if you want to call it waste. And we'll start cutting up the first half of the second roast, starting again, like I said there, with a nice you know, straight cutting surface to work with. And then we'll start our cutting. And of course, if you want to save a little bit of money, you can buy roasts just like what I'm doing here. Same type of roast. Saving the cutting and make your own steaks. Of course, you want to cut them probably a little bit thicker than that, not by much, but just a little. Then you can make your own steaks and kind of fry them up. As it is right now, cutting them about a 1/4 inch would actually equal to kind of one of them fast fry type of steaks you find, kind of for if you're making a stir fry or something like that, right? Pretty much, really, that's all a butcher does, is cutting up the meat into different cuts, different types of meat, different, you know, different meat makes different cuts of meat, and different cuts kind of make the portions, right? So if you can save your cutting, you can save a little bit of money there, which of course helps all the way around for paying bills and all that good stuff. And yeah, you want to watch out for any little strings or anything that you may not have got the first time, because sometimes the strings tend to stay in the meat. Even though they are cut, they still tend to stay. So we got our pretty much 3/4 of the roast cut up, working on the last half of the second roast. And again, just like the first roast in the first half of this one, pretty much just cutting it into little chunks. Again, paying attention to the fat here, which you'll have to, or you should anyways, trim out. Well guys, here we are. I've got both them roasts all cut up and all that. And like I said, out of all that meat, which was about 5.5 pounds, we had only about enough waste to fill the palm of your hand, which is fairly decent. A lot of that has to do with the picking of the roast. If it looks like there's a lot of fat on the top of it as you're looking at it, you can almost guarantee that there's just as much, or if not more, hiding on the inside. So you want to pick one that is fairly fat-free looking and hope for the best. So of course, over here we have our recipe. We have our soy sauce, our you know, black pepper, we have our garlic powder, and if you choose your beef jerky, you know, spices or seasoning, and brown sugar. Pretty much we mix all that together in a container of your choice. Doesn't really matter what size, as long as she'll fit the jerky and the marinade. And let her marinate for about 48 hours, and then she's good to go. So guys, let's get mixing and you know, see how she goes. Okay guys, so we got half of our brown sugar added there, and we will add our other half of our brown sugar. Then we will add our garlic powder. Then it calls for 3 teaspoons of pepper as well, but I'm going to cut back on that myself because I always do, and it seems to turn out well. So we have need for 3 cups of soy sauce. Now if you're wanting to, you can change this to be the light soy sauce or the the stuff that has less salt. So after we've got all our ingredients mixed together, we'll add a little bit of the jerky spice here, just to give it a bit of extra flavor. And of course, obviously we're going to have to stir it all around just to make sure she's good and mixed. And of course, we're going to have to give her a good old stir to make sure she's mixed well, because we know we don't have the lumps and stuff out of the sugar, and the sugar's not fully mixed with the soy sauce. Same with all the other spices and stuff, they're not fully dissolved yet, and we don't want any clumpies or nothing. So we'll give her a good old mix in here. Pretty much keep stirring until she's fully dissolved. If you come across a lump of something, give it a squish, give it a strain out. Because the more fully mixed you can get her, the better it'll be on the for the taste side of things. Okay, so once everything is good and mixed together, we can dig our meat out of the fridge. Pretty much look you can tell. And we'll start putting it into the marinade mix. And of course, when you're laying her out, you want to lay her out, try to get as flat as possible so she gets as much coverage as possible on, the piece, right? Now as you put your jerky in here, she is going to get, marinade mix will get deeper because the jerky, the meat will displace the, the space and all that fancy technical terms. And so guys, what I'll do is I'll get the meat on in the container here, and then we'll see if she needs some more mix added to her. So guys, we got the meat in here. So far we're looking fairly well in terms of, coverage. We got enough marinade in here that the meat still has room to move, so you can shift it around and stir it if needed, of course. So guys, what we'll do here is we'll give it a bit of a clean up here, start putting this in the fridge, cleaning up all our mess, all of our dishes and all that. We'll let her marinate now for about 48 hours, and then she'll be time for the dehydrator. So guys, that pretty much concludes part one of Make Your Own Beef Jerky. And as you've seen in this video, we covered the cutting of the meat, the mixing of the marinade, and pretty much getting it prepared to marinate for about 48 hours. Over the next 48 hours, it's recommended to stir it a few times. Of course, bringing the bottom jerky pieces up to the top and top to the bottom, so it gets an even marinade on all four sides of the meat. Then after she's done marinating to your satisfaction, whether it's 24 to 48 hours, depends on how you want her, then we'll fire up the dehydrator and start that process. So guys, as always, thanks for watching Maxwell's World. Comment, subscribe, and enjoy.